Great.
Ashish, how are you?
Yeah. Good, man. Good.
Great to see you.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this and a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, we have a little less than an hour, but we'll try to go at it. Um, so, Dan, you're currently the head of Clover. However, your career has spanned over 32 years across finance, consulting. Um, I would love to know more about how did you start your career?
It's a great question, and it's a pleasure to be here. And Ashish, thank you for inviting me and including me in the podcast. This is a wonderful opportunity to speak to the Valley, and love the partnership that Clover and YML has. You've helped us get to where we are, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you, thank you.
And when you say 32 years, it seems like a really long time, which I know it is, and that's why I've got the white hair. But Ashish, I think it really starts with my family. I grew up around business. My dad was a very early employee at a startup, and he stayed with the company for over 40 years. And it was a privately held company all during his tenure there. And they grew it significantly over that period of time until my dad was about, I think he was in his early 60s, and they sold the company to Cummins Engine. And, seeing my dad work in that type of environment, it impacted me greatly. I saw firsthand the impact of that type of company starting from nothing and growing, and the impact it had on the community, the impact it had on the families who worked there. And I was always fascinated about, how they designed and built their products, how they sold their products. They actually grew internationally as well, and it was fascinating to see them move out of the United States to other international regions. And I had a chance to meet and know some of the executive team that worked there, including the chairman and the CEO. So I got a chance to learn from them on how the board operated, how the executive team operated. I remember going through when I was in high school, reading their annual reports and asking my dad, how does this all work? Where does the capital come from? How do you allocate it? In a privately held company, like how do you monetize the shares that you own? And so it was really fascinating to watch that. And then to actually see that whole management team, turn the business over to Cummins Engine, of course, after 40 years of hard work, and what that did was really how I got into business and how I got, my passion for that. Then my, dad encouraged me to go to school for a computer science degree and an MBA. He said, "Hey, I think this computer thing is going to take off. I think there's something there." And if you have the technical skills combined with the business skills, I think you can really make a difference. And so I did both of those things. And he coached me along the way. And he said, "Hey, building relationships, having solid communication skills are going to be really important. People like to do business with who they respect and who they get along with. And you're going to face a lot of complex problems if you go into this career, and your ability to take the complex and make it simple and communicate effectively is going to do you very well." And he also reinforced, the importance of a strong work ethic. There are no shortcuts. You're going to have to work really hard to earn everything that's going to be given to you. And interesting enough, he enforced that quite a bit after he retired from the company that he'd been with for 40 years. So that work ethic, no shortcuts, he actually lived in practice. So in the end, I'm really glad I listened to his advice and followed his guidance.
And Dan, when I look at your career, where you've been at Fiserv over 11 years now, and one of the thing which jumps at me, and this is pretty much in sync with, like, a lot of people come to me for career advice, and I tell them that if you can tell a story where you can paint a picture of how you have grown along with the growth of the company, that is a great career. And when I look at your trajectory, Dan, like, that's exactly what I see. And I understand, even though you're not the founder at Clover, but how you've risen through the ranks, have done so many different functions, and now you're heading Clover. That's kind of like, how you've grown your career along with the growth of the business. So congratulations, on that.
Thank you.
So today you're the head of Clover, and now you've haven't taken over for the founder, John Beatty. For those who don't know, if you can share what is Clover and what do you do there now?
Oh, great question. Thanks, Ashish, on that. Clover is our operating system for small and medium-sized businesses. We really focus on delivering a complete set of software solutions to help those small and medium-sized businesses operate and grow their business. It really is the most important technology partner for these small businesses because we automate their mission critical daily use activities. So we are really the most critical partner that they have in their entire relationship because we're powering everything that they do. And in the small business market, it's historically been really underserved by software. I mean, we all hear the stories about large software providers serving large corporations and enterprises, but there really hasn't been much focused on the small business community. And that's really what Clover is all about. And as an example, Clover helps our customers manage their money, manage their products, manage their customers, manage their vendors, and manage their employees. And we do this with all through one modern cloud based technology stack. And so it really makes it easier and more cost effective for them to manage all aspects of their business. Because as we all know, small businesses don't have the capital to spend on very expensive software applications. So we have to do it at scale. We have to make it simple. We have to make it easy for them. And so providing a technology platform like that for our small businesses is really what we're all about. And that breadth of capabilities that we offer to our small business clients really positions Clover as deeply embedded in their daily workflows. It is a daily use solution. It is the single source of truth for the business. And that really puts us in a privileged position with a responsibility to not only provide those solutions, but to anticipate what is next, what's happening in the industry, what's happening to our small business customers. And it enables us to innovate. So we're always staying ahead and we're always enabling those small businesses to compete and win in the markets that they serve. And as the head of Clover, I'm very fortunate to be leading a talented team of design, product, engineering, marketing, and customer success professionals who are focused every day on delivering that value proposition to our customers and making their dreams a reality.
So, one thing which a lot of our viewers may not know that Clover today, in terms of payment volume, is even bigger than Square. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So, and that is just a gigantic, payment volume. And in terms of, I think in scale, you're at 700,000 merchants and close to, 1.8 billion in revenue or so.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so how do you see that the POS roadmap evolving, right? You've been in the business for such a long time. Where do you see it is going?
Yeah, so we've had phenomenal growth, and I think there's three primary drivers of our growth. One is talent. So I'd like to say at Clover, we're very obsessed about our talent. So our strategy has been to hire the best and to give them the support and freedom to do wonderful things and great things for our customers. And it's not about having the highest number of employees within the business. It's about having the best. And it's about focusing them on the missions that they're passionate about, that they get behind and they can deliver for our customers every day. The second driver of our growth has been, as you mentioned, product development and innovation at scale. So we started as a really cool device company in the day, and it was a great innovation, and it was really focused on accepting in-store payments. But we're now much more than that. We're an integrated commerce operating system. We've got purpose-built hardware. We've got specialized software to help our customers operate and grow their business, whether that's actually in store, online, or even on the road for service-based types of organizations. And so we're really a much broader platform than we were from the beginning. And that was on the benefit of getting that scale through our great distribution channels. So our distribution channels have grown significantly We actually have the broadest distribution channel network in the industry. Clover sold through financial institutions, independent sales organizations, agents, ISVs, and we actually have a direct to merchant sales channel as well. And these distributions are not only here in the United States, they're global. And so that really provides us with the broadest reach to our local small businesses, and it gives them many choices in how they want to not only purchase Clover, but how they want to get supported by Clover, because all of these distribution channels have local business consultants that are there in those local communities that can help them leverage the most out of the Clover platform. And then obviously underpinning this, each one of those, three drivers of growth, I would say, is the amazing support and commitment from the leadership team who saw this market opportunity with Clover back in the day, and they actually made it happen. So Frank Bisignano, Guy Chiarello, they and themselves were the ones that provided the capital investment to make this happen. They created the environment within Clover to innovate at scale while embracing that culture of a Silicon Valley startup. So they were the ones that gave the capital, they were the ones that had the vision, and they were the ones that protected that innovation and that entrepreneurial spirit at Clover that still lives today. And that's resulted in this amazing growth that we have. And what's even more amazing is that the growth for the future is actually even brighter.
Yeah. And I have observed that very few startup acquisition actually works out. And I would say Fiserv has hit a home run by acquiring Clover, especially so early, right? Like if you look at like the growth over the past 8 years or so, it's been unbelievable. Um, and for any entrepreneurs or founders, out there listening to this show, what is your message to them would be about how do you scale a business, especially in
Oh,
today's economy?
that's a really good question. So, I've got a lot of experience at this particular point of an organization in their growth journey. And so I would say there are three things to keep in mind. Number one is if you're at the current stage of Clover's life cycle, right? John Beatty and the team had founded the business. We've had tremendous growth, and we're actually on the next phase of that growth to more than double the size of the business in the next few years. It's important to demonstrate that our growth comes from improved operating leverage. So that is, we needed to create an operating model where we can get more value from each one of our customer relationships. So this is really focused on expanding lifetime value and average revenue per client. So this is why we talk about Clover as an integrated commerce operating system, because that platform type of operating model and solution set enables us to go after a larger total addressable market. And we can do that in a scaled manner with both revenue and margin expansion opportunities. We have horizontal capabilities on our platform that can serve all different types of small businesses. But in addition to that, we actually have specialized software to meet the unique needs of specialized segments such as restaurants, retailers, and service-based organizations. But all of that solution capability and all of that technology is running on this operating system that's cloud-based, and that enables us to scale very cost effectively and to go after these enormous addressable markets. The second thing I would say that they need to keep in mind is never lose sight of your end customer. Keep that front and center at all levels within the organization. Because what I've seen is it can be easy for the organization to get distracted. They can lose the focus of the customer because as you start scaling the business, as you start to get larger, you've got to put some structure in place. You've got to put some new processes in place, and you've got to figure out how you actually can do that in such a way, but you still have at the heart of your organization the end customer, what their needs are, what's happening in the market, making sure you're really intentionally listening to what their needs are and able to then take the scale benefit of all the great talent and all the great scale that you've acquired and then put that to work to make sure that their needs are being met. So we need to double down on our focus and empower our people who interact with our customers the most. Those are the ones that have the pulse in the organization, pulse in the market. And when we listen to them, I think that's when the organization is at its best. And then
Mm,
the last thing that I would say is, as the organization continues to scale and get larger, you have to be obsessed about talent. because you can't be afraid to adjust your talent and your operating model and your team structure as your business gets bigger, because the people that got you to the current phase of growth might not be the exact ones to get you to that next phase of growth. And you've got to make those really difficult decisions and have an honest assessment of, do you have the right players on the field? Do you have the right leadership with the right experience and the right skill sets to actually put that model in place, execute the model appropriately, and do so in such a way that actually continues to deliver on the mission of what you are all about, so you don't lose that intentional fortitude to actually deliver to what you've agreed to from the value proposition commitment between your organization and your customers. So it really takes strong leadership and core conviction to make those difficult decisions. But I think it's really necessary to get that talent right in order to take it to the next phase.
Yeah. And um, we started YML at the bottom of last recession in 2009. And I remember like it was so hard to raise a single penny that we eventually, after like 3, 4 years, we gave up this idea of raising and we just bootstrapped it. And what that did was, even though it took us some time to get off the ground, however, like it it made us laser focused on what the customer needs are, right? And I see in today's economy, it has got a big shock from what was happening the past 2 years, right? Like one of the big reasons why we launched this podcast was follow. I want to hear from people who have followed the change and not the plan, and that's what happened in pandemic, right? And there was a blip, and then business flourished for 2 years. Now we are back with a soft economy where like businesses are laying off people, especially in tech, and it's kind of a pivotal moment, right? Like all these years, tech companies have been doing everything possible to attract the best talent, and now all of a sudden they're forced to focus on cash flow,
Yes.
which especially in Silicon Valley, that's kind of unusually unknown, which is surprising. But and now I feel like, on one side, companies have put in so much effort in making sure they have the right perks, benefits, compensation, the whole 9 yards for the team. But on the other side, there is this existential need to focus on cash flow. So how do you balance these two things? Like my opinion is, when you are in the midst of it, like obviously you feel the stress, you feel the tension. And I believe like this is my 12th year running YML, and I've been through few of these, and I believe that just when things are falling apart is also the time when things are falling in its place, right? And I would love to know, how are you optimizing between the two, right? Focus on cash flow on one side and making sure you're not hurting, the culture, still hiring the right talent, and doing everything the right way.
Yeah, that's super important to us at Clover. We have a belief that where we are in our growth journey, that operating leverage that you just mentioned is super critical. And I'm very proud to say that Clover not only is growing significantly the top line, but we're actually growing the bottom line, and we've got margin expansion. And I think it comes down to the business model that you're operating in, and it comes down to operating discipline and operating expertise. And I like to believe that at Fiserv and at Clover, we're really strong in every one of those. Not only at our corporate level, where we've got a very solid balance sheet, and we've got very solid free cash flow and recurring revenue, we have a really strong focus on operating discipline. And it's getting the most out of the investments that we make, and understanding that there is growth and there are investments. And at certain times, we need to put those investments to work in a leverage model where not only the growth is happening at the top line, but it's accruing to the benefits on the bottom line. And I think that takes really strong operating expertise and discipline, and I would say an obsession about talent and putting the right people to work on the right things, on the right priorities to achieve the right missions, and giving them what they need and giving them the empowerment to do great things. And that actually drives what we are in terms of our model. We're not looking to have the most and the highest number of employees. That's not what we're about. We're about having the best employees. And what we have found is that having the most talented employees aligned with the right missions and the right passion and the right enablement and empowerment, that's how we get great technology, great products, and we leverage our great distribution to get those into the hands of the most small businesses that are possible. And it's that engine that works every day that creates both of them. And during the period of time that we're living in right now, where we've got a lot of different things happening in the economy, the geopolitical risk, we're seeing the stock market go up and down and the volatility. What we're seeing at the end of the day are the solid businesses who have great business models, great operating discipline, and actually profitability wins the day. That's where we shine. And I'm so happy that Clover is actually able to drive both top line growth as well as bottom line margin expansion through that operating leverage that we've so intentionally built into our operating model.
And how do you attract great talent, right? I feel like we are in the midst of so many crossroads right now. I would say the past few years, like the big techs, the Facebooks and the Amazons, and you know, it was so hard to compete with them. But now, the past 2, 3 weeks, if you look at their stock price, it's shocking how much it has dropped. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like, nobody is too big to fail, right? Like you look at Facebook, I think they've lost 75% of their market cap today, which nobody could ever imagine in their wildest dreams, right? So how do you attract, the best talent given like what's going on right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think you're right. The way I look at it is, we're in the IP business, right? We're in the intellectual property business because everything we do is based upon the talent that we have and, the intellectual property, the intellectual capital that we bring to the market. And we view it as a strategic asset. So we don't look at our talent as an expense, we look at it as an investment. And so, again, as I mentioned, we obsess about talent. I think I personally spend the majority of my time thinking about talent, and
Mm.
that's talent in terms of setting the right culture and environment for our teams. So we focus a lot on teamwork, collaboration, inclusion, and empowerment because we believe that each one of those elements enables us to move faster and provide better solutions for our customers. We also operate in a very flexible work environment, and we know that life can throw you curveballs and can throw our teammates curveballs at any time. And we want every one of our teammates to have that flexibility. What that flexibility also does is it enables them not only to deal with those curveballs as they're thrown at them periodically, throughout their journey, but they know that they've got a great company standing behind them that has their back. And that's very comforting that they know that, hey, they can deal with their situations as it comes up. The company stands behind you. We're there when you need us to be there. And I have seen kindness and empathy in motion across Clover and Fiserv during the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, and the kindness that our associates show each other, and the kindness of the types of investment and support and encouragement that our corporation and Clover provides to those teammates is it's just unbelievable. And it actually makes me the most proud of why I can say I work for Clover and Fiserv is because of that. The
Mm.
second thing that I think we focus on to get great talent, retain great talent, is I tend to gravitate towards using operating metrics to evaluate performance. And those operating metrics, as an example, can be quality, productivity, and growth. And we are a high performance company. We have high expectations. And so we expect everyone to get better every day. We expect everyone to shoot for the stars. We set our goals and our objectives very high, and we really encourage our organizations to cascade those down and have as equally high set of expectations. And so having the right measurements in place, it allows us to measure how well we're doing. And those right metrics and the ability to provide that type of feedback enables those one-to-one coaching opportunities between managers and our teammates, and allowing them to actually understand how we're performing, where we might be off track, what we can do to get back on track. And we'd like to hire talent who loves that kind of environment. They like, they're results oriented. They like to measure how they're doing. They're highly competitive. They're mission driven. They want to achieve great things. So creating those that environment of measurement, performance measurement, operating metrics, and then using that from a feedback mechanism, I think is super important. And the last thing I would say is, providing the right tools, the right training, and the right level of engagement within this within our culture and with our employee base is super important, because there's nothing more frustrating to hire great talent. They're inspired and motivated to achieve a mission, but then they don't have the right tools. They don't have the right support, and that's not a good recipe for success. So we focus a lot on making sure not only that we have the right talent in place, but we have the right tools and training to enable them. We are in the job of solving complex problems, both business problems and technology problems. So that requires very sophisticated problem solving. So when we're hiring new talent into our organization, we have to have a great onboarding process, a great training process, and we have to have an ability to have coaches and mentors and subject matter experts ready to help those new associates come on board and participate in that problem solving. And then again, keeping those employees and those teammates involved in the organization, involved in the team, and they build that over time. That's that investment in that strategic asset. And I can tell you firsthand that accrues a great ROI and it accrues a great benefit. And it's proven within the growth that we've achieved as an organization has all been on the back of great talent.
Yeah. And I would also say that the kind of stuff you guys make, and now we have been working over the past few years together, and I remember like Amanda, she was in England and she was talking to this owner of a cafe there who was using Clover. And she shared this story where he was an immigrant from Eastern Europe and he could never imagine owning a cafe in England. And he said that Clover today has, made that dream happen, like in a lot of ways. And it is a really powerful story, right? And how do you kind of like drive this message to the team members? Because I feel like sometimes people can get busy in building the wall and lose the sight of the cathedral, right?
Yeah.
And they get busy in their deadlines, and sometimes it's very frustrating too, of missing deadlines, all that stuff. But how do you drive that, the vision home every day?
That's a great question. In fact, this morning coming into the Sunnyvale office, we have a restaurant that is our neighbor that sits right next to us. And I went over there to say hi. They're a Clover customer. And, he came over to me a couple of weeks ago and he said his Clover system wasn't working. So came into the office and I said, hey, send somebody over. Let's make sure that the Clover system is working appropriately. So we had somebody sent over there. What we found out is that he had just bought the business. So he had just bought the business and he was trying to figure out how to set it up. So we got it set up for him right away. And so this morning when I walked over to talk to him to see how he was doing, he was so thankful. And it was him and his wife who came out. They're immigrants, just landed here in Sunnyvale. And they came up to me and they were so appreciative that we were responsive. We helped them get it set up. He said, I just bought the business 2 weeks ago. And I said, this is fantastic. Let's do this. We're going to use you for catering events. We're going to cater your lunches through you. Let's build a great relationship. Let's work together to make you successful. And what I realized in that is that these small businesses, and there's millions of them that are the same way across the globe, they're putting their own capital at risk to run and start this business. It's their life passion. That's why they're doing it. There are no breaks. They do this 25 by 7 by 365, and you can feel it and you can see it. And so what we tend to do is we want our teammates to get out in the market. We want them to have these interactions. We want them to talk to the small business owners. We want them to understand how they're operating their business. We want to understand that this is personal to them. This just isn't a job. This is actually personal
Hmm.
to them. And that feeling of connection, that feeling that we're actually helping that small business owner and not only themselves, but their family, their communities, is really, I think, that very emotional connection to make what we do very, very real. And then as you look at it, right, you start understanding what do they deal with every day as a small business owner? They deal with the rising cost of goods. They deal with overcoming staffing shortages. How do I drive more sales in my business? Um, I've got this whole thing called the internet. I've got these online aggregators. I've got different ways that consumers want to interact with my business. How do I deal with that? How do I get online? How do I get on social media? What do I do with different in store experiences? Because we're coming out of the pandemic and consumers are expecting contactless payments. Consumers are expecting speed and accuracy and security and flexibility. Consumers navigate from digital to in store. And at the end of the day, these small business owners come to us and say, I've got my to do list and it never gets shorter. How can you help us? And just having those interactions and listening to our customers and getting out there and experiencing what they do, that's what drives us. That's what keeps us focused because then you've got the motivation and the inspiration, and what we're doing has a real purpose and it's got a real reason for what we're doing, and it provides specificity and focus on what we have to do every day is to make them successful. There's nothing better than talking to a small business owner that says, you know what? You've solved my problems. I can now go home. I have more time to do other things. And you've helped me address every one of these challenges that I was facing with. That's the real reward at the end of the day for all the hard work that the team does.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, if you look in the POS landscape today, the competition is unreal, right? Obviously, you guys are one of the biggest players. Then there is Square, then there is Toast. So, how do you keep up with the competition?
That's a great question. So, I think we win every day because we're better. So, just basically, we're better. And in all seriousness, I would say that, we win in the market every day because we're focused on the customer, we're focused on their needs. We're relentless about delivering innovation and tech solutions that are simple to consume, simple to use, cost effective. And in the end of the day, it helps them operate and grow their business. And that's the real scorecard. We're a champion of small businesses. We believe that their grit and determination inspires and motivates us. By the way, we invest in and partner with community organizations that support small businesses across the globe. During the pandemic, we created a back to business program where we had thousands of grants and millions of dollars that we contributed to those small businesses that were in desperate need of help during a very difficult time. And not only did we use our capital to help them, we actually provided them with our technology and our solutions. And then we also gave them our talent. So we made our talent available to help them through this difficult time. So, to us, it's definitely more than a transaction. It's a relationship. It's a mission. We're purpose led. And at the end of the day, it all encompasses what we're about. And I think our customers and I think the market feels it and sees it in everything that we do. And I think at the end of the day, that's what makes us better. And there's some really good competitors out in the market, no doubt, but I'm not sure that they all have what we have to offer. And I'm not sure that they're as focused on this mission as we are.
Yeah. Um, and what would you say as like some of the biggest challenges of small business today?
Yeah, I think it's, as I mentioned before, I think it's the rising cost of goods, changing consumer expectations, the labor staffing shortages, Ashish, is a huge thing. I mean, they're having a really hard time finding labor, being cost effective. The whole supply chain is disrupting it. The consumer expectation changes, I think, is a big driver and very difficult for them. because it's this intersection of physical in store with online digital interactions. And from a consumer perspective, it all gets blended. Like they don't view them as channels; they view it as dealing with a brand or with a restaurant or with a retailer, and they want it all integrated together. They want a seamless interaction as they move from one to the other. And I think in a lot of cases, small businesses, they don't know how to navigate that. They don't not know where necessarily to go. And historically, it's been way underserved by technology, as I mentioned. Small businesses have not been a focus historically for software and for technology companies. And that's why I think we're at the forefront. I think we're early in the evolution of that. I think we're the market leader. I think we're the innovator. And I think our ability to help them through those particular situations and the challenges they face is really what makes us the best at the end of the day. And it's what our mission is all about.
Yeah. And I've heard like so many founders and entrepreneurs talk about how a specific failure, in their career has helped them greatly achieve what they have achieved so far, right? I would love to know, Dan, from your standpoint, when was the time you failed? Obviously, you've had a great, successful career as the head of Clover now, but over the past, so many decades, right? Like, what was kind of that aha moment where you felt like, man, I need to fix this and I need to march ahead?
How long do we have? My list is many. So that's a really brilliant question. And if I had to pick one area that I probably learned the most from, and it's had the biggest impact on my career, and I'd say my leadership style, it was early in my career, actually at Fiserv. I had the opportunity to get into many different businesses at different stages of their life cycle, and some were transformative in nature. Some were focused on, there's great opportunity in the market, and we need to go capture it quickly. And early in my career, Ashish, I often found myself operating at a pace that was faster than the organization and the team could follow or sustain. And what I realized at the time was that I was so focused on the mission and I was so motivated to achieve it. And I was so passionate about getting the business and the team to be successful that I was operating too fast. I was moving way too quick. And I had a great executive coach at the time, and he brought it to my attention. And once he brought it to my attention, I started reaching out, to people that I was working with, and they had the courage to provide that feedback to me. And they didn't have to, and they did. And so when it was brought to my attention and when I heard it from others and I could feel it, what I realized is that I was burning out the team in certain instances. And I was going so fast that I could lose followership. And what I realized is that was the talent, and it was a marathon, and it was that talent that I needed to achieve the longer term mission, which was durability, sustainability, and growth at an appropriate pace that the organization and the team could that the team could manage and the team could absorb. And so that feedback changed my life, and it changed how I viewed everything. And what that executive coach did, what was interesting is he gave me a little glass, square, and on one side he said, "This is when Dan is good," and on the other side, "This is when Dan is not so good." And I still have it, and I use it all the time. And when the Dan is not so good, it's that. I was pushing too hard, I was moving too fast, and I bet, Ashish, there's not a week that goes by that I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Because in the situation that I'm even in now as the head of Clover, we've got this great aspiration. We're so passionate about achieving it, and we know exactly what we need to do but also have to be conscientious of the organization can only go so fast. And there's different phases of that speed that needs to happen. And it's critical to put the right pieces in place to get that acceleration. And the sequencing of that is as equally important as the actual speed to get there. Because if you don't put those pieces in place, the right operating model, the
Yeah.
right talent, the right strategy, the right priorities, and the right focus, you're not going to achieve it. And it might have some short term benefits, but it's not going to accrue the long term benefits and the sustainability and durability that we're ultimately looking for.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I would say for me, it was the moment when I realized that I can't operate as an entrepreneur where, I was doing selling, engineering, project management,
Yes.
finance, everything day one. And year two, year three, I was still doing it. And I was not realizing that I had to kind of like let go of the function and, hire world class leaders. And that was such a pivotal moment for me.
Yeah.
Um, so now, Dan, we are coming to the last part of the podcast. It's called the sprint, and I'll
Oh
give you
boy.
two options, and there's no right or wrong answer, but you have to pick one. I'll start with a very easy one: Clover or Square.
Clover.
All right, it gets harder from here. Musk or Bezos.
Oh boy. Can I vote neither? I'll put Bizignano.
All right, experimentation or research.
Experimentation.
People or process?
People.
iPhone or Android?
Both.
Why both?
Uh, Different users, different markets. Now we're an Android-based shop here, but we actually have we're actually building out Apple Tap to Pay, as a matter of fact, right now, and we've got Android Tap to Pay as well. So it's a new payment flow and a new payment use case for us that we're building out.
All right. Last one. Paying with a credit card or paying with a smartphone?
Smartphone.
All right. I am the same. Dan, this was great, man. I appreciate your time, and I am sure listeners would be thrilled with this.
I
So
enjoyed it very much. Thank
thank
you
you.
so much for the invitation. I appreciate it.